quick tip number 2, the primacy effect. The primacy effect is another one of those fundamental forces that affects our perception. The primacy effect basically says that our first impression of a person is going to be the strongest impression we have of that person. Not everybody lives by the primacy effect, not everybody goes by it, but it is a very common thing. And when you think about it, we make judgments about people very quickly. We are very visually oriented people, and we do look at someone and immediately start making decisions. In fact, most people make a decision about someone they meet for the first time within the first 7 to 10 seconds. And this is true just meeting people out in public, even job interviews. The job interviewer, when you first walk in the room, in the first 7 to 10 seconds, has already made an initial impression about you. And that impression, if it stays as the biggest impression they have of you, they're affected by the primacy effect. Now, that can be difficult because if we have a first impression of somebody and over time we find out, well, maybe that wasn't quite right, it wasn't quite an accurate perception, and they change over time, if you're someone who still primarily is dominated by the primacy effect, you will still say, well, but my first impression, I'm really good at that, and my first impression of them was this, and yeah, that might not be supported in stuff they've done since, but I still know that's how they are. And so it affects our perception. So the very first impression makes, boom, suddenly that lasting of an impression on us, and it can mess up our perception sometimes because we don't always get it right the first time, right? We don't always understand somebody based off of how they look. It's kind of like what we talked about with stereotyping. So the primacy effect is the second major force that affects our perception, and it's another one that we need to be aware of. Am I being guided by the primacy effect? Good to know.